Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is AshQuest, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Veiled Dungeon, an RPG toolbox from Loke Battle Mats, the makers of Loke Battle Mats. Battle maps and accompanying encounters, monsters, and adventure, and this even comes with a free digital copy. This is a 5e compatible toolbox, which comes with a ton of stuff. This box contains 20 fold-out maps, that's 10 double-sided 11 by 17-inch sheets that are wet and dry marker compatible, 40 monster cards, and a reference book that includes 100 5e random encounters, a 5e adventure called Raiders of the Cerulean Ruins, dungeon adventure generators, and 40 unique monster stats and descriptions. Here's a bit of a preview of everything we'll see, but ultimately, this is to be used not just with 5e, but for really whatever you want it to be. It can be used with anything that will use these RPG assets. So let's open up this box and figure out what we have here. Now, under the lid, unlike most things that I box, we actually have usable real estate, usable RPG assets in the form of a large dungeon room. I'm really proud of them for having this graphic on here. Even if you're not a fan of having something inset with 3D walls, there's quite a few people who don't like the 3D walls because it can inhibit some of your vision while you're trying to play. And the size of the tiles doesn't follow an inch standard. It's more 15/16 of an inch, or even it might drift to be a little bit smaller than that, but I think 15/16 will suit your classic 28mm heroes just fine. Even if you're not a fan of that, it is still really super nice to have that as an option. And you can dress this with your own dungeon dressing, your own walls, your own scenery, your own encounters, your own adventure in this inset dungeon. That's not at all what all this comes with. However, I will go ahead and take the box, overturn it, and get all of the stuff out so I can show you the bottom lid, which has another map underneath. Perfectly usable, and we've even got colored stones. This is really pretty to me. Really, really pretty. How this was set up. Bravo on the art direction. We don't have a wall with a door to get in. All of this is just wall, so it'd be really interesting to see how your heroes get in and out of that dungeon. There's an awesome skull graphic on the back of the book that's included, but let's go ahead and check out the cards first. And the very first card that we see is Activated Rope. Now you can see on one side of the card, you've got the art and no other context. And on the other side, we have 1 out of 4, 50 XP, Activated Rope, Small Monstrosity, Unaligned with 2 Stir, 2 Dex, 2 Con, -4 Int, 0 Wis, and -4 Ka. That's Ka for Charisma. It has an AC of 12, 11 HP, 2d6 plus 4. It can move 20 feet and climb 10 feet. It senses Blind Sight 20 feet and Passive Perception 10. It has its own actions. And that is really where the 5e compatible aspect of all this comes in. You could ignore all of that or any one of those or a combination of those to suit your game if you wish. But there's the Activated Rope. Here we have the animated scroll Storm, which is really cool looking. Cool artwork there. This is the Arcane Golem, which just looks like a living tower of sorts. Looks like we have a lot of mimicry going on here. This is called Bad Dreams, and it's just a mimic bed. I love that. We've got a spider, we've got a living bookshelf, we've got this bear that's just Cerulean Blight Bear. Oh man, doubtless a Cerulean Wolf, a Haunt Hound, Cerulean Haunt Hound. Just living things and horrifying things. That's what we have here. Oh no, a dangling living candelabra. Deadly Diptera Swarm. Flies. So, Footrests. Fog Collector. This one's really cool. I do like this one. Kind of reminds me of a acidic ooze, but it's a fog that's getting everybody ingested instead. A giant squid, a chained man, a walking collection of mushrooms. I don't know what this is. Hissing humors. Sure. Oh, he looks awesome. Love that guy. Love this bat. Love whatever this creature is. The Malevolent Veil Fiend. Yeah. Mist Shadows, Gargoyle. Living Quill and Ink. Oh no, what is it going to do? Write insults about my mother? Fine mother is so obese, it doth take Thanos 2 snaps. The Merkham Hole. Right, the Nightmare Visions. That's cool. So many cool concepts with this one. I didn't quite guess that it was going to be Remains of the Day. Remains of the Day. It's just a mixture of bones. That's crazy. I could not have guessed that this is what this was going to be. Now we have what looks like a pregnant slime. It's a saddened sludge. A centaur statue coming to life. Sentinel statue. Swarm of bats. Flower that's going to eat you. Feed me, Seymour. Flying carpet. That's an unwelcoming rug. I love that. This guy is a veteran scholar. And then finally, it's just a worm spawn. It's just a bunch of little guys. It's just a bunch of little activated teeth intestines. Okay, putting that aside, we have our maps, and these are all following the 1-inch grid standard that Loki is known for. So these are perfectly compatible with your other Loki products, and they all open up. You could keep them like this, but then you're going to have a 1/2 inch of unusable tile, unless you just want to omit that from your game. But you have these maps that open up into these 11 by 17s. All right, and there you have it. There you have it. This is the map that we have. That is a Sentinel statue, actually, so I can pretty much guarantee that this map is used in one of the encounters or the scenario that also uses the Sentinel card. On the other side, because these maps are all double-sided, we have a completely different scene to be used elsewhere. Green sludge. We have references in the bottom right-hand corners of these maps, what would be considered bottom right-hand. 10B, 10A on the other side. So the book can refer to which map it is using for its encounters. Very useful. Tells you exactly how to set things up as well. So we have more of that temple of the gray bathtubs, green sludge bathtubs. And then we have an outdoor scene, some ruins that you can enter because the door has just been destroyed. Or perhaps there wasn't a door there. Perhaps it's just the corners of the walls there that have been destroyed. And then we move on. We have more broken interior. We've got some dangerous places to stab. You're going to need some jumping ability to get across this map for sure, or else you're going to fall in and you're going to have to climb out. This map here, reminiscent of Return of the Witchlord almost. A Hero Quest dungeon crawler campaign. This map is also a place that has been long abandoned. More of this green sludge underneath. I'm just going to call it waters that have been tainted by warpstone. Then we have this vertical real estate. Love that. Love that we can climb up here, have somebody with some range chucking fireballs or arrows down at the unsuspecting heroes or villains below. Lots of interior rooms, lots of places for monsters to hide or treasures to be hidden. Lots of places for the heroes to check. Lots of stairs here. One of the grandest sets of stairs that I have seen in any map ever. Just the grandest set of stairs. These are the steps leading up to Capital City, Lanedell, and Elden Ring. The light coming from this sigil is actually creating shadows past these pillars, which I think is really cool. I love that attention to detail. We have pure interior. The heroes can explore this as a dungeon. Lots of alchemists' bottles and such on tables. A very dangerous overpass. This used to be a 4-way bridge, but it has been heavily damaged. The bridge goes over what looks to be an enormous well. It is certainly man-made, I would say, and it is housing something particularly despicable. Something very, very dangerous. Moving on to the next interior map. Quite a bit of this interior. These, I suppose, could be exterior, sort of alleyways that go through, but you could really make them either or. This could be the inside of a very large complex where people are free to roam halls, but they all must maintain their lives inside of this giant prison-like area. This is a fun one. Lots of predetermined door points, but it's fun. There's a lot of potential with this one. You could use the rooms in lots of different ways. Then we have a clear boss arena. You could use the obscurity of the pillars by hiding behind them. Not that it'll do you much good unless you have some fellow adventurers to help distract the big bad. And our last map, which is actually 1A, we might have some combat on these raised areas taking place between two wizards firing spells back and forth at each other while the remnants of undead and greenskin and entry-level squires and knights battle it out below. And our last room to look at. Underwhelming compared to the rest of the maps, but still very useful depending on utility. The Veiled Dungeon contains the free digital content, which you can redeem if you have this. I don't use the digital content, but I've covered up my code. But you can scan this QR code and enter the code that's here in order to get all of this digitally as well. We have our contents going on to all of our monsters, the Raiders of the Cerulean Ruins 5e adventure, which is comprised of 7 chapters, and how to create your dungeon and different encounters across the 7 sort of areas that these 20 maps represent. Welcome to your Veiled Dungeon. Before we present our 5e adventure, we will share some tools, ideas, and random encounters you can use to introduce the Veiled Dungeon into your own adventure. The following pages will cover how to introduce the Veiled Dungeon into your world, a summary of the maps and how they work together, and some random adventure building tables for creating your own plot. Here are some story hooks that you can use to get your party interested, or use this to segue your own existing campaign into the Veiled Dungeon, either as a stopping point or a stepping stone, or in between large phases of big bad activity in your main campaign, such as Just a Myth. The Veiled Dungeon has more rumors than truth spoken about it, but one thing is always the same: the fog. Or The Inevitable End. As the scholars dig, catalog, and research, many of them become obsessed and edge towards madness. At some point, the same thing always happens: a new discovery, and then a tragedy as the fog arrives, leading to the abandonment of the site and filling it with twisted monsters. The different areas of the dungeon are named here: the entrance, which is maps 9A and 10A, the dormitory and the lab, the scholar hall, the dig site. The dig site is maps 5A, 6A, 7A, and 8A, and they can all be used together. The Forgotten Ruins, the Eldritch Depths, and the Lost Temple. All of these are arranged such that you can use the associated maps with these different areas together at the same time. You can roll for everything on your sort of adventure generation tables here. Why go on this adventure? Roll a d10 for motivation. Let's say I roll a 7. It's official orders. The regional ruling power has ordered the characters to investigate. Who is asking? I'll roll a d20, and that's the person of interest. Let's say I roll a 9. Grave importance. Wizard who prefers to dwell on the school of necromantic magic. Now, is an organization involved? What reward is being offered? Any complications to this adventure? We roll a d6 for the complications. Hush hush on a 4. It's vital that nobody know what the characters do. They should leave no evidence behind. How big is the dungeon? And Veiled Dungeon variants. Escalation, the dead are restless, mimicry. We have a lot of different ways to play this. And this would be a really, really cool way to play dungeon crawler campaigns in our own non-5e games. I really like these tables in particular, and I'm probably going to get some inspiration from them. Here's the encounter master list, and we're going to go on to check out some of these encounters. They are separated by area, so the dormitory and lab encounters, you'll roll a d20 for an encounter, and then roll a 3d6 for monsters from the monster table if you'd like to add monsters, such as wandering monsters, or as directed by an encounter. If you need more combat, add more monsters. But let's say I roll a d20 and I roll a 19. Any map I want, the encounter is called Toolkit. And let's say I go ahead and roll 3d6 and get a 6. A Chest of Jaws. CR 1/2 challenge rating, I guess, and the number 2d3 Chest of Jaws. So anyway, let's check out Toolkit. And these are arranged in order of how they're listed. Toolkit. Locked inside a safe with a complex lock, DC 18, is a well cared for, complete, and doubtless expensive set of archaeologist tools in mint condition. The handles are carved precious metals with gems inlaid, and the set is worth 3d10 by 10. And that's the encounter for that set of maps. You'll have a bunch of chests of jaws coming after you, and actually that's very fitting. You might have, if I were the DM running that scenario on the fly, I would say you have a lot of different chests and you have to check them all. And one of them is the one that houses all that stuff, but the other ones are the bad chests of jaws. For the Eldritch Depths encounters, if I roll a 1 on a d20, I'll get a dead ringer. The fog here sneaks around the characters almost like it's examining them. Further away and out of sight, 2 doppelgangers take on the appearance of 2 characters. If the characters split in such a way that an approach would go unnoticed, they will approach and attempt to infiltrate. Otherwise, they will attempt to use a rolling bank of fog to infiltrate amongst the characters and sow confusion. Where does this confusion lead? That's up to you, GM. This does include monsters, so we see here the asterisks mean that it includes monsters, that's what you would roll on the monster table. And so if I rolled a 9, I would get 1 ghost. Raiders of the Cerulean Ruins is set up in such a way that you get all of your quest information piecemeal, and you also get the maps complete with all of the quest notes, we can call them. All of the references that pertain to the maps, the exits, the entrances, what they mean, where you can go. And I really, really like stuff like this. This is how I would play a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, or any edition Dungeons & Dragons. I would love to have stuff laid out exactly like this. I would love for the adventures to be guided for the most part, and then a little bit of wiggle room for the dungeon master, game master, whatever, to do what they want whenever a subjective decision needs to be made. The last several pages detail the same stuff on the cards by giving us the stats of all the monsters in the card deck, and then flavor text, and we are able to see another reference to the maps. And that, my friends, is the Veiled Dungeon, a complete random encounter, monsters and raiders of the Cerulean Ruins toolkit from Loke Battle Mats. I want to thank Tamsin and Matt for sending me this lovely gift. Yet again, this is really, really nice. It provides for a ton of inspiration and hours of content for you 5e players. If you liked this video, I hope you'll check out my video also on the long road. And so until then, brave heroes, I wish you a fantastic rest of your day, and bye for now.